Hello everyone, welcome to XSTEM All Access. I'm Tamara Robertson and I'm excited to kick off the 2022 virtual XSTEM series showcasing some of the coolest minds in STEM. Now today's program is the first of 7 brand new episodes where you'll hear guest hosts like me ask inspiring STEM role models all the questions you'd like to know about their job, their personal journey, and the area of STEM that they are passionate about. Have you wondered what it's like to work in a particular STEM field like chemistry, medicine, conservation, or space? Are you interested in science, technology, engineering, or math as a career path, but unsure what jobs exist in those fields? Or maybe you're not sure what career direction you'll pursue and are looking for a little inspiration. If you fall into any of these categories, or even if you're just here for fun, today you'll get insight to these questions and more. Make sure you subscribe in the YouTube description below and follow us on social media to get XSTEM updates. New episodes will be released throughout the entire school year, and you won't want to miss a single one. Scan this code to access resources from today's program, including printable worksheets for the classroom and other free STEM resources from today's speakers, our partners, and more. With your parents' permission, tell us how you were inspired today by tagging us at USA Science Fest, #XSTEM, and me at The Real Tamara Robertson. This free STEM program is brought to you by the USA Science and Engineering Festival. The mission of the USA Science and Engineering Festival is to inspire the next generation about careers in STEM. You can check out their other free programs and events for teachers and students at usasciencefestival.org. Before we begin, please join me in thanking our partners, the United States Air Force and the United States Space Force, for making this XSTEM All Access series possible. We'll hear from them a little later in the program. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. As I said, my name is Tamara Robertson, and many of you probably already know me as a science host for shows like Mythbusters or Mythbusters Junior and Sci-Jinx. You've probably seen me here talking superhero science and about Seekers of Science, but long before any of that, I became an engineer, which has given me the opportunity to travel the world and help people doing relief work in disaster situations, designing and building new technologies like more eco-friendly plastics and packaging processes to help extend shelf life and remove waste from landfills. I even got to make pandemic vaccines. So I'm excited to share with you all the limitless possibilities a career in STEM can provide in these action-packed days of XSTEM. I hope that you are just as excited as I am because we are going to get started. Today, we are going to hear from Dr. Yasmin Daniels, also known as the Classy Chemist. Did you know that chemistry is central to all sciences? In fact, as a chemical and biomolecular engineer, it's a pretty important part of my daily job, and not just for the fun, sparky science demos I do. So PhD chemists like Dr. Yasmin deserve a round of applause because their work becomes the cornerstone on which other works are built. Dr. Yasmin Daniels is a chemist whose work as an industrial hygienist for the U.S. government helps protect individuals from potential health hazards while at work. Yasmin earned her PhD in analytical chemistry and has conducted a great deal of research in environmental remediation, which is a fancy way to say she finds ways to make the environment cleaner, which we can all appreciate and benefit from. In addition to her day job, Yasmin is an adjunct professor of chemistry, a best-selling children's book author, and a mentor to youth, adults, and organizations on STEAM topics. That's science, technology, engineering, art, and math. And if that wasn't enough, Yasmin is a mom, a wife, a volleyball player, and a coach. Wow, please join me in welcoming Dr. Yasmin Daniels. Yasmin, let's jump right into our questions because I know the audience is excited to hear from you. So tell us, what inspired you to become a chemist?
I have a PhD in analytical chemistry, and I've worked as an environmental chemist for a number of years. Currently, I work as an industrial hygienist, and industrial hygiene is simply the study of chemical and health hazards in the workplace and finding ways to anticipate, control, and correct them. I've always had a certain curiosity for understanding how things worked, but I didn't quite know that it was chemistry that I was interested in. As many of you know, chemistry is the study of matter down to the very atom. By that definition, it's the essence of everything that's around us, and that's the reason that I was so inspired to do chemistry. I've worked both in a lab, synthesizing materials that could help purify toxic chemicals from water, and in the workplace in real time, sampling chemicals so that we can make the workplace chemical free so that folks working in the workplace can return home safely to their families every day.
Workplace safety is something a lot of people take for granted and probably don't associate with chemistry. So thank you for helping to make these environments a safer place for us and our families to go to every day. Speaking of families, did your family background, upbringing, or childhood experiences influence your career choice?
I did not come from a family where the research side of science was acknowledged or praised. In fact, I knew nothing about it. I always thought that a career in science meant a career in medicine, and it wasn't until much later in my academic career that I became exposed to the wonderful opportunities and careers that scientists could pursue, and particularly chemists.
This is a great message because many kids aren't exposed to science at home, but most kids do possess an innate curiosity for the world around them, which is exactly what scientific discovery is all about. Family is important, but sometimes inspiration can come from elsewhere, and that's okay too. So, did you have any role models or mentors growing up that led you to where you are?
I've leaned on so many people throughout my upbringing, and I can't emphasize enough how important that's been to me. One of them came at a time when I was in college, and it was my chemistry professor whose love and passion for chemistry was infectious. He never once made anything in chemistry seem difficult or challenging, and he always seemed to have the simplest solution for the most challenging of questions. So much so that I too wanted to become a chemistry professor, and today I work as an adjunct chemistry professor part-time.
Role models are so important. If it hadn't been for a role model I met while in college, I wouldn't have even realized engineering was a possible career path for me, and I wouldn't be where I am today. And they helped me get through so many obstacles. Can you explain any roadblocks or obstacles you encountered on your career path, and how did you overcome these, and how did that influence who you are today?
Before I met my chemistry mentor, I was under the impression that I would pursue a career in psychology or some type of brain science. I had done a few internships in neuroscience and psychology, ranging from looking at fMRIs in human brains as they were presented with multiple stimuli, and looking at hormones in male and female rats and seeing the effect that it had on their behaviors. So naturally, I applied to graduate school into neuroscience and psychology programs, and guess what? I did not get into any of them. Luckily, my chemistry mentor and I spoke after I experienced that disappointment, and I had actually done an internship in a chemistry lab, in his chemistry lab, and I realized that there was still an opportunity for me to pursue a graduate degree in chemistry, having had the experience that I did have in that lab.
I can definitely relate to ending up on a different path than you started embarking on. But it's so important, like you said, to be open to new opportunities along the way because you never know where they might lead. So speaking of that, what do you think or hope will be the next big discovery in your field?
In my field, it would be amazing if scientists could discover a way to completely prevent toxins from entering our waterways and our airways, whether it be in the workplace or in the general public. As an environmental chemist and an industrial hygienist, that would be a dream for me.
The work you are doing now is contributing to that dream of protecting the water we rely on and the air we breathe. So it's another great example of how your work as a chemist impacts everyone on the planet. Tell us something about your job or about you that might surprise people.
I think folks would be surprised to learn that when I was 8, I had a terrible accident which caused me to lose the temporary functioning of one of my legs. In fact, medical professionals predicted that I may never walk again. However, since then, I've managed to push myself, and I was able to successfully complete 4 years of collegiate volleyball at Hunter College and the CUNY Athletic Center, and I still hold titles there to this very day.
That's amazing and inspiring. What other types of STEM professionals do you interact with or work alongside as part of your job?
At my job, I work with so many different STEM professionals, such as ergonomists, health scientists, and engineers. STEM is such an interdisciplinary mix of topics that no matter what subject you choose to focus on, you almost always end up working with a STEM professional from a different area. For example, as a chemist, I may rely on engineers to come up with a structural design to be able to utilize some of the materials that I synthesize in my lab for water purification.
I love that you use the term interdisciplinary because scientists can be stereotyped as non-social individuals who work in isolated settings, right? But in reality, they collaborate with other professionals, and that's critical to the scientific process. So, what advice do you have for kids thinking about careers in chemistry?
My best advice to those wanting to pursue a career in environmental chemistry or industrial hygiene is to see if there's any opportunity to obtain an internship or volunteer experience working in any facility that would provide those opportunities. It was so valuable for me to gain real world experience because it was during that time that I was able to actually get a feel for what it would be like to work in these fields.
I actually second that advice on the importance of internships. I got my patent while working as an intern, and now it's used by companies like Starbucks to alleviate plastic waste and landfills. So, speaking about prettier places than landfills, what's the farthest place you've traveled for work or for fun?
I've had to travel so many times for work, and it's been such a pleasure for me. As STEM professionals, we love to collaborate and to share our research with folks around the country and even across the world. I've had the opportunity to travel to many conferences around the nation and even in Europe to places like Portugal and Italy. I've even had an incredible experience of studying in the south of France, where I worked in a lab developing some of the materials that I synthesize for water purification.
See, that just goes to show that if you dream of traveling the world as part of your career, becoming a scientist or an engineer may be for you. Now, what was the most rewarding or your favorite part of your career thus far?
The most rewarding part of my job is knowing that every day the work that I do keeps me fulfilled because it helps people. Whether it's designing environmental materials to purify water, or it's ensuring that workers go home to their families safely every day.
I think I speak for everyone when I say thank you for the work that you do. Now, what does a typical workday with as many hats as you wear look like for you?
As an industrial hygienist, a typical day would begin with me putting on my PPE, which stands for personal protective equipment, as I prepare to enter a workplace where workers may be exposed to hazards. Now, depending on the type of hazard or the samples that will be collected, I may need to adjust my PPE. That means I may be wearing something like a Tyvek suit, which covers me from head to toe, or I may be required to wear steel toe boots, a high visibility vest, a hard hat, and safety glasses.
Safety first, always. Now, chemistry can be a little bit of an intimidating subject for high school students. What advice do you have for kids who might be interested in the subject but apprehensive about pursuing it as a career?
Chemistry can be an intimidating subject. In fact, when I tell people I'm a chemist, most of them wait for me to start laughing and to say that I'm joking, and some of them simply ask why. My best advice to someone wanting to pursue a career in chemistry is to ignore the naysayers and to discover for yourselves what a wonderful subject chemistry is.
I would have loved this advice when I was a high school chemistry student. The biggest thing I learned from my high school chemistry teacher was to wear really thick shoes when you're doing acid demos. But anyways, you're a devoted STEM educator and mentor, which is near and dear to my heart as well. So can you tell us why STEM outreach and communication is so important to you?
I am a devoted STEM educator and mentor. STEM outreach and communication have been so important to me because I've relied on them throughout my entire academic and professional career, and they've been so big and influential along my journey. I can only hope to do the same for others coming behind me.
I couldn't agree more. And here's a question just for fun. What are some of your hobbies outside of your work?
Outside of work, I love being a mom, I love playing and coaching volleyball, and I love traveling to tropical places.
Wow, I'm impressed. So in addition to your work as a chemist, you have a family, you're an athlete, and you love to explore the world. Talk about a true role model. So with that in mind, for our last question, can you give the students one takeaway thought to leave with?
When I speak to students, I always like to leave them with this. It's always important to keep an open mind because opportunity lies in the strangest of places.
That is so true. Keep your eyes open for opportunities. The best ones might appear where you least expect them. Thank you, Yasmin. I truly love chatting with you and hearing about your work. I hope to stay in touch. Thank you for sharing the many ways chemistry impacts our daily lives and inspiring our viewers with your personal story. Your job as a chemist is truly making the world a better place.
Thank you to the attendees from all across the world for joining. Thank you also to the USA Science and Engineering Festival for hosting the XSTEM All Access Conference. I had a wonderful time participating today.
Everyone, make sure you check out Dr. Yasmin Daniels on social media and online at classychemist.com to keep up with her amazing work, including her best-selling books for kids, which you can check out right here. But don't go anywhere yet. I promised earlier that we'd hear from our partners at the U.S. Air Force and the U.S. Space Force. So let's take a moment to listen to a message from these two very important branches of the United States Armed Services. Thank you again to the United States Air Force and the United States Space Force for making this XSTEM All Access series possible. Coming from a military family myself, I love to see what these organizations are up to. So make sure you check out the Air Force and Space Force online and follow them on social media to keep up with all the amazing things they're doing. And thank you for tuning in today. Don't forget to subscribe in the YouTube description below. and follow us on social media to get XSTEM updates about new episodes. You won't want to miss a single one. Plus, you'll get access to fun weekly content for students and teachers, such as STEM trivia for students, classroom tips for teachers, and so much more. Use the code to access resources from today's programming, including printable worksheets for the classroom and other free STEM resources from today's speakers, our partners, and more. With your parents' permission, don't forget to tell us how you were inspired today by tagging us at USA Science Fest, #XSTEM, and tagging me at @TheRealTamara Robertson. I hope you have enjoyed today's program. This episode and the entire series is available on demand at no cost, so check them out at usasciencefestival.org. I had tons of fun being your host today. Be sure to join us for the next episode coming in May, featuring Space Force Guardian Abby Farine Scott and hosted by my friend and space educator Kevin J. DeBruin. And join me on my YouTube channel at @TheRealTamara Robertson, where you can join me as I teach you about the science behind superheroes and making. But don't sign off just yet. You'll want to stick around through the end of this video for a fun trivia game that you can do in the classroom or at home. So, have fun!